In this video, we're going to talk about Doe Estrus bleats. Now, what's the difference between a Doe bleat and an estrus bleat? It's really simply the inflection, the volume, and you're really trying to add emotion to a Doe bleat. And so there's two different kinds of Doe bleats. You can make the sound of, and there's many different tones with the Doe bleat on the Extinguisher deer call, by the way. You can go with a young doe up toward the fawn setting, and it'd be like, or you could go a little bit deeper, like an older doe, that's more of a mid-range doe, and you can go right down to the older, almost a buck sound. So that's an example of the different age structures of does and the different sounds you can get with a Doe bleat. Now, there's a couple different tone variations to a Doe bleat too. We'll do that real quick. I'm opening and making it a little bit different, or you can do it the other way. Okay, it's inflections that have different types of emotions to it is all that is. So now let's get into the Doe Estrus bleat. We want to add a little bit of emotion to this call. So let's say if its emotion is probably going to increase in volume as it goes, and then it may be toned down on its way of finishing the Doe Estrus bleat. So you could do it a number of different ways. And one of them, my favorite, is this one. So I'm going, meow. Okay. So I'm throwing that emotion in there, and then I'm just kind of winding it down. I'll do it one more time on a different pitch. And I added almost like a little flutter to that one, kind of a because remember, these does are in estrus, they're ready to be bred. And you know, they're just think about their bodies like a dog goes into heat. It's just it's totally different deal. And they're just mentally, they're in a different place. So adding that weird emotion, the flutter, the whatever, even a little bit of volume is a good thing. So I went, yeah, so just do different variations, different tones. Just think about that emotion to it. And that's what I call an authentic Doe Estrus bleat, okay? Play around with it, see how the deer react. You're gonna know, you can try different ways. One thing I would say is volume is gonna be kind of important. So let's talk about why volume would be important. So now we're gonna talk about scenarios. When would I use a Doe Estrus bleat? There's no one thing, there's no right and there's no wrong, because you're making tones and sounds that deer are making. So it's just a matter of how are the other deer gonna react to what you're saying is really what it boils down to. But don't worry about, oh, I messed up, that wasn't what I was thinking, it wasn't perfect. Nobody's perfect, okay? I'll stumble in this video. So it's not a big deal. You're making good sounds, you're making good tones. Now let's talk about how to use that. In the pre-rut, the bucks can be searching for does, and the younger bucks are actually pushing does. So if, say you're looking for a mature buck, I'm thinking about a mature buck, something in that 4.5 on up range, okay? And even a 3.5, we can even go there. So what I'm looking for at that is a mature buck. How do I bring him in before the breeding is actually really started and he's not picking up on the pheromones? What I might want to do is at that magic hour or in the morning when they're moving, is I might do a Doe Estrus bleat added with some young buck grunts, like a buck is chasing this doe, and maybe an emotional Doe bleat to get him thinking, wow, did it start? Did it start? What's going on? What? And he's going to come in to see what's going on. So that's an early part of it when they're not really in true estrus. So let me give you an example of how that might be. I'm going to be a little less emotional because it's early. They're not really coming into it. And then I'll give you the sample. Something like that. And then I would throw some buck grunts in there. Imagine a little buck walking as he hits that step, and he's trying to push that doe around, okay? I just put the picture in this big buck's mind that this, hey, is the breeding starting right now? So early. Now when they're actually in estrus, you might see a buck. Here's another scenario. You'll see a buck and you see him cruising. They got their nose down. Now I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive, but every time I'm going to a doe bleat when I see this. And so I'll put a more emotional doe bleat because he's looking for a hot doe. So I wanna give him that hot doe he's looking for. Just a simple high, more of a volume, because remember, he's walking, sticks are breaking, and deer can't think of a million things at a time. It's really one focused thing. And so you want to get his attention without freaking him out, but you want to get his attention. One more time. And at that point, if his nose is on the ground and you know he's not looking at you, point the call right at him, because what's going to happen is he will identify exactly where that sound is coming from. You'll see him look, and there's a good chance he's going to come in. When he's looking, you better not be calling, because you don't want to identify that you're up in the tree or anything like that. So the Doe Estrus bleat can be used for the different times of the breeding process, the pre-rut, the rut, and the post-rut. And in fact, it can be even more effective in some of those pre-rut and post-rut areas because the deer are now not locked down on other does. And so you're gonna find situations where you can do some cold calling and create scenarios where they're like, oh, I'm looking for that doe that's in estrus at the beginning or at the end, and it might get them running right into you. So those are some really effective tactics. Now, practice this, practice your tones, practice your volumes, and I promise you, understanding how to communicate with deer and doing it properly is going to make you way more effective and more successful in the field.